Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22. It's Youth Factory. We're on episode 50, Half Century, and we are coming off a title. It's taken us 5 years to climb out of the third tier, but we have done so. However, season is not yet done. There's a couple games to go in the season itself, but more importantly, as we don't care about that now with the title wrapped up, what we care about is that we are still alive in the Norwegian Cup. Yeah, the Nations Cup. We're still in it. There's only 8 teams left. All 8 teams just about to play, kicking off at the same time. Turns out we're not the only team outside of the first division left, as Kongsvinger is in the first division down, sort of like the championship. They are in the second tier. We, in the third tier, are still alive. We play at home against Rosenborg. We're going to have, I believe, a near sellout for this game, which is going to be a huge boost in the financial department. But as we're going up against the leader of the Elite Series and of the top division, our chances of coming out with some sort of victory and staying alive to go to the semifinals are ridiculously small. But let's see what we can do in this one. And what we're facing for this is going to be, well, a bit of a challenge. Here is our options. We have 5 players in need of a rest. There's no way we're giving that to them today. Maybe in the next game, but I'm not managing them directly for that one. So we'll see if the assistant manager bothers with it. But Fawoli out on suspension, yellow card accumulation. So he's out. Jonas Gay is very tired, along with, all those guys that are just generally tired. But Bergam also had that season-ending injury, so he's unavailable. He's got 22 goals. He's got more than our next 2 guys combined. And then the next guy on the list after that as well, unless you're counting Minkowitz. But at least of the starting 11, he's got the next 3 combined have fewer goals than what he has. So I don't like our chances today, okay? Let's just go out and have some fun. Oh, love the side of that crowd. It is huge. I love the sign of the dollar signs that are going to come, the windfall from having such a large crowd here today, even if we don't come away with any prize money. All right. Paying attention to fatigue is going to be an obvious thing that we really need to watch out for. Okay, already quite tired. He might only just make it a half or just into the second half. He might not even make it through a half with how tired he is, but we're hoping he'll make it a little while. Minkowitz makes a nice play, sets it up for Gay, who does get a shot off, but it's blocked. But there's our first shot attempt. It's something. We are capable of at least creating a little bit of offense against a team as strong as this. Ostby, nice force on the turnover. Minkowitz, great chance, one-on-one with the keeper. Forces an excellent save out of the keeper, but yeah, my oh my, that was close. We are capable. We could get a goal, potentially. Not that we are favored to do so, but it means there's enough in us to maybe get something. We are creative enough. It's not going to be a total blowout here. Possessing well at the moment. Haukeberg in one of the last game. Well, the last game we're going to at least see him playing in, as he was sold. Minkowitz, almost gets enough bend to that, but of course keeper just stood there and watched, knowing that it was wide, but it seemed awfully close. Where we were impressed to get our first shot off, and they had already had a couple by that point. Since that time, it's actually been all us, but a poor turnover there on the header, and it's going to give them a real shot as they come in one-on-one with the keeper, and Moen teases him into going near post, and then reacts to it really well. And there's a nice chance for Lovas, who doesn't miss that by much. I'm really impressed with how we have played here in the first half. We look just as likely to score as they look. They've got a couple guys really tired too. Long throw, deep cross. They're going to keep that in. That shot's blocked. They're going to recover the ball, and nothing doing. Halftime. We've made it to halftime with more XG. Each side with one shot on target is all possession, ever so slightly in our favor. We are hanging in there. Downside, though, tired legs starting to set in. I have 6 of those guys that were in need of a rest, not 5, after I look through again. It's going to make it difficult. It's going to really make it difficult, as, you know, we don't have the depth. Our quality is going to drop off as I'm forced into making substitutions. Hermanson struggling a bit out there and tired. Okay, Gay and Andreasen. Gay drops into that next level of fatigue. I think we're going to have to get him out of there. I hate to bring on Al, but we really do not have a choice. Christopher Al might get the job done despite not having quality, but I think going up against a team such as this, the things that stand out for him, as in his pace, isn't going to be as relevant against an opponent such as this. I have a feeling Al's going to really struggle in this type of environment. But he's on the pitch. He's going to get a little over half an hour. He does give us some fresh legs. We'll see. Already caught out. Wide open chance, and they nearly score. It's ping-ponging around. We do get the offside flag, but that started with Christopher Al not picking up his man, not marking his man, and he's already got a yellow card. He hasn't even been on the pitch for 10 minutes, and he's nearly given away a clear chance, and then he's struggled and given up a yellow card. Let's get on Modeste, as Andreasen is now quite tired as well. That'll be our second sub. Makowitz with a golden chance. Beautiful cross there. He takes the volley. It's a little too much down the middle. Fairly comfortable save for the keeper, but there's our first chance and just our second shot on target. Al gives that away. Again, those struggles, as predicted, are coming true. Ostby now quite tired. Hermanson quite tired. I think we need to get Ostby out of there. Hermanson, I do not have an option for. Calzi gives us an option to go attacking. You know, there's nothing. Halkenberg on a yellow card here at the moment. There's nothing we can do but go for it. I mean, you know, if it goes to penalties, we're screwed. We don't have the quality. We don't have the composure. We don't have the finishing. So we don't want it to go to penalties. We want to win this thing. We don't want it to go to extra time either, as with the tired legs and lack of subs and lack of depth, that's not the direction we want to go. We need to win this thing in 90 as Makowitz goes really close. Surprised there was no flag, but he might have been onside there. Again, they go to the near man and set that up. Switching it far side. Penalty? Oh. Wow, that is harsh. Oh, that is so harsh. That ball is well over the top. Nobody's reaching up for it. And, you know, maybe we've got a hand on a shoulder. Maybe we were holding him around the waist. I don't know. You never know with the animations. I don't celebrate when I get penalties. And I'm really unhappy when it goes against us. And it looks like we're going to be beaten, not on merit, but thanks to the referee. Halkenberg, nice coverage there to get over and help out on that one. Gillo, long ball to no one. Lovas, I think he was in an offside position, so he does not challenge there. Oh, dangerous through ball. The chip is a little too high. Running out of time here. Al finally makes a decent play and then gives it away. Another dangerous through ball. Moen makes the block and recovers to pick up the ball before it goes out for the corner. Again, time getting less and less and less. Severete getting beat right now quite easily. He is so tired. But I think I'm out of subs. Am I? Yes. 3 sub rule. We've already used them. This is it, folks. Running out of time. Got to go very attacking. I don't want to change my shape because I think we're already pretty vulnerable here. Losing 1-0 is better than that. Better than giving up late goals to make it look comfortable when it really hasn't. We've been in this thing at a rough, difficult, harsh penalty call has been the difference. The tired legs, though, you got to say that, between Severette, between Hermansen, they've looked a lot more dangerous here in the last 20, 30 minutes of this game than they did in the first 70. And if we came in fresh, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. If not for the harsh penalty, that's probably 0.8 of the XG, as you generally get that for a penalty. They definitely looked the stronger team late. I mean, you can see how close, how even we were, and then all of a sudden, bam, penalty, and they just piled it on. We had almost scored right before that. I mean, we got a good bit of XG right there. We were still very much in the game. It was still pretty balanced, and then the penalty changed everything. That was expected, though. It really was. We weren't thinking of coming out on top. I was making that quite clear that they were heavily favored, but we hung in there for 80 minutes, and then a penalty and a stoppage time goal is all there was in it. We were pretty dang even for most of this game, and that's impressive, especially with the tired legs, especially missing 2 very key players. Makowitz had multiple chances that you figure maybe Bergam had the opportunity to do more than what Makowitz was able to do, and maybe we would have had a goal in there. Maybe Hermansen had a rough day. Maybe Fawoli would have been a lot better off and performed a bit better, though Hermansen's not that far behind Fawoli in terms of skill. Makowitz is wide a ways behind Bergam in skill, so it was definitely a drop-off, but maybe we could have done more with those 2 guys. I think more importantly, we could have done more if we didn't have so many players at the end of the season just exhausted from making that title push. Either way, we have won the league title. We made it to the quarterfinals of the Norwegian Cup. What a fantastic season. We are headed for the second division. Before we jump straight into intake and get to that point, let's take a look at how we performed on the season and see what was the difference this year and past years. How has this team turned it around to see promotion after 5 years in the division? Well, let's start by looking at the near sellout. It was 5,775 in the crowd, 900 away fans present, and for us, it's a 6,000 capacity stadium, so that was really close, just 225 away from a total sellout. Next up, I want to check in and see how much extra money we were able to get out of that match. Now, for reference, because we've had 3 total home matches this month, including the Cup, so 2 league home matches. We had 2 home matches last month. So that's a good marker because we can essentially just subtract out last month's game time income and subtract that out, and then that'll show us what's left. So gate receipts last month was 12,700. So you subtract 12,700 off of this one. That means 70,000 is what we brought in gate receipts. Now remember, there's a share of the revenue when it comes to the cups. Usually, at least in England, I think it's 60% goes to the home team, 40% to the road, or 65-35, something along those lines. So it's about 3/5 of the money goes to the home team. We can see match day income increased by almost 21,000, and the corporate income went up by almost 4,000. What that comes out to is about 1K shy of 100,000. So just a hair under, but 100K, that's a huge increase in money. Now, of course, there's going to be extra expenses involved in that as well, so it's not going to be a full-on profit. It costs more to have more staff around to manage the game. There's more cost that goes into like the match day income itself, the food, what the product that was used up to have that larger income. So it's not straight 100,000 extra that we made, but it's a bulk of that, whether it's 75K or 80K. It's a good amount of extra income for the team. That's huge because we haven't had that type of income previously. Now, hopefully, going into the second tier now, we're going to have a larger fan base. We're not going to be sitting on 1,000 fans a game. We should be sitting on something a bit higher. Even if it's only 1,400, it's going to make a difference. And if we don't see a massive increase in terms of salary, that should turn into more overall income versus expense. And when we were only just shy of making profit, we're only losing a small amount now compared to what we were. That might be enough that come next season we are at least a little bit better than break even, and that would be huge. It would be absolutely huge if we're able to do slightly better than break even, because then those finances are wiped out. Remember, this is a break even scenario when we're talking about debt and loans that are massive. We have a debt of 1.6 million. We still owe 1.4 million. It's a lot of money. That is a lot of money, and we're repaying that at 10,000 a month. And when your income normally, right, our gate receipts in a normal month is only 12,700. That's barely covering the barely covering the loan payment. The TV revenue should definitely go up next season, so that's another thing that's going to help us out. We've already made more in gate receipts this season than last, but I think the big difference was this cup match. Yeah, it really is, because the extra 70,000, add that into last season, we're only 100,000 up from where we were a season ago, and the stadium was part way into the season when we had that upgrade, so there was still the tiny 100 seat capacity stadium for the first third of the season or so. This season our average attendance, I think, was actually a little bit less than what it was last season once the stadium was expanded, because of the administration issue that we had gone through. Well, that was more than a season ago now, wasn't it? We did that late the season before. We had all of last season and then all of this season. So actually, overall, gate receipts did go up a little bit. But this was not the only cup match that we had at home. So there's some additional gate receipts earlier in this season as well. Hadn't seen this one previously. One of the things that actually hurt us this year, somewhere between being in administration and having financial concerns, financial worries, somewhere in that combination, last year we made $250,000 in fundraising. This is a publicly owned club, so the fundraising brought us in a decent amount of cash. In fact, it was the largest source of income last season. This season we only brought in 60K, so significantly less than what we brought in. I mean, it's a good 150,000 under what we brought in a year ago. So that's a lot of money lost on us. So that's either because our balance isn't bad, or because we're not in administration and there's not people desperately trying to keep the club afloat. Whatever it is, of those two reasons for it, that's 150,000 we lost out on. I mean, the club would be in a lot better state at the moment if we had an extra 150K, because that would almost double our overall balance. And at 300,000, we might actually be able to do something, because we're still in a financial state that we are considered insecure. And that financial state has made it really hard to get anywhere with the board. Oh, we are now showing okay. They finally show us as okay in the finances. It could be now that we've been crowned champions and they're setting us up for next season, and they're looking at what our balance is right now. Whatever the case may be, finances now show okay. This actually might be a good time to talk to the board about something, whether it's a coaching badge, whether it's an upgrade to corporate or training facilities. I'd like to get those training facilities up a bit higher than they are, as our development is rather slow and limited to a handful of players. Be nice to expand the rather slow to pretty much everybody, and that limited group develop rather fast, because that would really help us climb to the top division, a little bit quicker than we are. If we're in for another 5 years in the second division or longer, it could really stall things out for us. We already stalled out for a while. Viewership from when we first got to the third tier to now, viewership of this series has probably decreased by more than half, probably 2/3. So I am missing a bit of that audience, and I was worried about getting stalled out too early. I was glad we got to the third tier before things did stall out for a while. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Let's just push forward. And we're on to the end of season review. Adding in the big cup games, we end up with average home attendance of 1,100, so 18% of capacity. I expect to see that a bit higher next season. Biggest win, Bodo Glimt, 5-1. That's huge for us. Key moment, on the road, Strømsgodset winning 2-0. And that was 2 back-to-back goals just a couple minutes apart from Andreasen before they had somebody sent off as they were trying to claw one back. And some final tallies in the finances department. Sponsorship was identical from the previous year. Hopefully that'll be up next season. Broadcast revenue, $5,000 higher than the year before. I would definitely expect that to be quite a bit higher next season, as we're going to play at a higher level. Corporate hospitality was more than double. Competition prize money also up. And we should be getting our league prize money for winning the league here shortly. Match day revenue, double what it was a season ago. Bergum, easily the player of the season. I can see why. Also young player of the season. Minkowitz claimed goal of the season in the final minute of the final match of the year. I was playing that one out. It didn't look that special to me. It was just a long ball over the top from Andreasen, and Minkowitz with the volley, putting it into the corner. It was pretty ordinary. It was a nice goal, but that's it. 22 goals for the 22-year-old Bergum this season. Lavas with 10 assists, 12 man of the matches for Bergum, and he did reach his 8.0 rating for the year, or at least I think they rounded up a little bit. He was quite close. 17 shutouts for Moen. Severette now on 261 career appearances. Lavas with 132 career goals, which is half of Severette's number of appearances at 25. You figure he's got to have about 220 or something like that for career. And our final tally was 59 points. I only got 4 points from the final 3 matches, with multiple suspensions along the way, a lot of fatigue along the way, some young players being played along the way, and then, of course, Bergum being missing from all of those final matches. And we had to play both Mold and Asker in 2 of the final 3 matches. So just 4 points from there, but it's still enough to give us 59 on the season and still be comfortable in the end, as we were 8 points up on Mold, who took second. Asker forced relegation from 3rd place, as it looks like the senior Asker team is getting bumped down to the 3rd division, making way for, well, us. Reminder that Halkeberg was quite young, just developing rapidly. He is going to leave us now, just now making it to the best 11, but not in the best 11, in the reserves to the best 11. He was on the bench. So Halkeberg never will make it to the top of our best 11 charts, as Jakobsen is going to hang on to that spot for the time being. Gillo and Severetti are going to obviously continue to cement their place in the side. Sabani is still the first choice goalkeeper, but Andreasen has now made it onto the list and has taken over as the all-time best left mid. He had a really good season and developed a fair bit. Stensby Jakobsen is still the bench goalkeeper, so Moen has not made it his way. I figure if he's going to be the starter again next season, he should at least overtake Stensby Jakobsen by then, but maybe not. We're not talking about current quality, we're talking about all time. And the divisional stuff, it's all relative. If Stensby Jakobsen had 4 good seasons, as we had 4 good promotions in a row, then he was good for 4 years. Mads Darlista, who hadn't played in ages, still on the bench for now. Christopher Isle on the bench ahead of or behind Astencio. Norheim Cham, that was the one I think who got bumped by Andreasen to the bench. Snellingen, if he wasn't already, I think he's been on the bench for a year or 2 now. And Boyadshiev, somehow on the best 11. He's never been a starter for us. He was a backup striker for a long time, and then Snellingen was the backup striker for a long time, and Boyadshiev barely ever played. But that's been our lack of options at striker. Mankiewicz, of course, has only recently, this is his 2nd year as the reserve striker behind Lavas and Bergam, and he got a little bit of playing time, and you would think a 3rd season of that should be enough to have him get bumped above at least Boyadshiev, not Snellingen. Snellingen's, he was a long-time starter. He'll be on that list for quite some time, but you figure at jeopardy, Darlista, Boyadshiev, those are probably, and Stensby Jakobsen, those would be the first ones to get bumped. As we get promoted, here's the new club vision. Continue to develop using the youth system. That makes perfect sense. Possession, high tempo, and defensively solid. Work within payroll. Avoid relegation. That makes perfect sense, as they've been giving us that target for years in this division. Now we're going to be in a higher division, so it makes sense that they are going to look to have us avoid relegation. In our injury report, it's Bergam who missed the most time, and of course that hurts probably more than any other player being absent. While Mankiewicz had 4 goals this season, and that's certainly not nothing, it does hurt. It does hurt, and we struggled a lot in those last 5 matches or so without him. Outside of that, we stayed pretty healthy this season. The other 2 guys that missed more than a week were backups. Bergam was kind of the only key player. But one thing we are going to have to look into is, how do we replace Haukeberg? Are we back into Jakobsen as a starter again, and his 5'3" action, as in his rather short stature and lack of jumping ability and lack of heading? He's good otherwise, but at the 2nd tier, I think that's something that teams are going to just tear apart, right? He struggled enough in the 3rd tier. He did fine up through the 4th tier, but from 3rd tier and above, he's been hammered these last 5 seasons. He's really struggled. So let's hope we get a really good intake player at center back, or I think we're going to be looking at a young option and bringing them along and hoping that they develop given time as a starter. Just a quick look at some stats from the season. Mold were the top scorers with 54, but we came in a very comfortable 2nd place with 46 goals this season. And we did that with only being 4th in the shots department, so we were quite a bit more effective than a lot of other teams. Fewest shots against, comfortably number 1. So our defense, which really struggled when we first got up to this level 5 years ago, the physicality, the pace, the heading, the Haukebergs really turned this defense around, and that is what got us up to the higher division. Yes, we were scoring, but we were always scoring a bit. it was the defensive side that was such a worry those first couple of seasons, and you can see just how much better we were now than back then. Pass completion, top 3 sides were well clear of everybody else. Possession, number 1, the only one to hit 60. Tackles 1, third place, Lillestrøm and Bodo Glimt well ahead, but then we were definitely ahead of the pace after that. We're not a big dribbling side. We definitely pass and move, and it has always shown in the fact that we're always near the bottom of the league, if not the bottom of the league in dribbles made. Shutouts equal on second, 1 off the top of the list, and fewest conceded. It was the consistency. It wasn't the number of shutouts. It was the overall lack of goals allowed. We played 26 matches and only gave up 17 goals all season, so well below 1. In fact, that's just 2/3 of a goal per match. That's a good way to win a lot of games. And in the player overview, Bergum, 5 goals clear of anybody else in the league. He was comfortable in that one on top, so good for him getting the golden boot. Lavas actually ended up with the most assists at 9 in the league. Bergum took the most shots, also doubled up anybody else in the league in man of the match. Key passes, this is always a big one, and you can see we are all over this chart. Lavas, 4th in the league. Almost all of those were to his strike partner in Bergum. Jonas Gay, 7th, and Bergum, 8th. So my 2 forwards with very, very key passes, and pretty much those are back and forth. It's setting up the other. It's making the extra pass to then put the ball on target after. Pass completion, Haukeberg, 98% to lead the league. Most tackles won. Look at that. My left and right mids winning the most tackles in the league. Moen equal on top with shutouts of 14 each. And fewest conceded goals in terms of matches played, this being a big factor in this one. 0.65 was the average allowed. Though, look at that. Start 2 goalkeeper with 21 appearances had a 0.67 and 11 shutouts of his own. Goals per 90 had Bergum 2nd in the league. Distance covered, Jonas Gay was 3rd in the league. 200 miles. That's a lot. But I care more about per 90. And Modeste came in at 17th. So a lot of movement from Modeste up and down the pitch, but nobody else making the list for us. Average rating, this is one of those important ones. Not that it means everything, but this is where we were comfortably at the top. Bergum, number 1. Fawoli, Lavas, both in the top 5. Jonas Gay in the top 10. Andreasen and Ostby in the top 10. Then Severette and Haukeberg and Mankiewicz all just behind. We were all over the top of the charts when it came to average rating this season in the league. Severette with the most headers won by 40 over the closest chaser, and he plays in the middle of our back 3. Haukeberg and Severette winning the ball the most out of anybody, and Gillo up there fairly high as well. Expected goals, Bergum, Lavas at the top of the charts. You could see now where Bergum is definitely a better finisher than Lavas is. Lavas plays a little higher up to begin with. Their XG, similar, but the final tallies, Lavas with fewer goals than expected, and Bergum comfortably finishing better than expected. Mankiewicz in his 5 starts and 10 bench appearances with a 5.76, managing to score 4 of those, so that, to me, you double his numbers and he's looking similar to Lavas. Andreasen makes the list as well with a 5.37 on the expected, and he scored 8 times in the league. Key passes per 90, Bergum and Lavas right on the edge of the top 10. Jonas Gay down at 17th. Overall chances created, Frode Lavas well ahead of second place in there. Jonas Gay just a couple off. second place, and Bergam just a couple off that. Makowitz, Andreasen, Ostby, all pretty high on the list. Cross completion, Haukeberg, the only one making the list for us, right at 50%. We're going to probably miss that. That's that ball distribution to the wings that he is getting those crosses. Severetti and Gillo both in the top 10 for interceptions made, but it is Haukeberg who we're definitely going to miss, who had an exceptional rate. One clear area where I could see the difference between Haukeberg and his partners Severetti and Gillo is that Severetti and Gillo are pretty high on the list of clearances, but they're definitely a bit lower on the list of interceptions. So that turns into not only making a defensive play, but ball retention, right? If Haukeberg is intercepting, he is then passing that ball on to somebody else. In the case of Severetti and Gillo, they are making the defensive plays, but they're clearing it. They're kicking it away, which could go our way or it could go the opposition's way, and they retain the ball. So we're gonna miss Haukeberg for sure. There's some standout stats for him that show the quality. A couple of goalkeeping stats here. Moen was 8th in saves held. In saves parried, he is 11th. So he did a fairly decent job of holding the ball. That was, 17 parried and 40 held. The expected per 90 was 0.74, so Moen a little bit ahead of the curve, making a few more saves than what was expected. In terms of expected goals prevented, Moen 2.15. I mean, that's an okay number, but there's definitely guys that were higher. I mean, there's 4 guys that were quite a bit higher. And look at the quality, the teams that they play for. Asker, Strømsgodset, Brann, Sandefjord. So goalkeeping, not that great for Moen, but he is the first player who's actually seen some development along the way. Goalkeeping was not a massive weakness for us, but it was certainly not a massive strength. Saves per 90, 2.42, asked to step up, much less frequent than, some of the other teams, some of the teams that struggle. Save percentage, there's those standout players, 80 plus. Moen, not far behind at 79%. Just a little bit off where they're at. All right, folks, I don't expect any fireworks for it, but we do have a board election coming up in December. Other than that, we are ready for our next youth intake and our first year in the second division. One notable thing as I wrap this season up was, and I'm used to getting it at this stage. I'm used to getting a higher expense when it comes to youth intake in this particular month, but it was $250,000. Our positive balance plummeted to $100,000 in debt, with $250,000 in spending instantaneously when we hit November the 1st. Hopefully that was a one and done spike and not suddenly the new monthly outgoing, because if that is the case, we're going to go broke real fast with $250,000 monthly. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.